Okay, cool. So yay. So we've done our gratitude, we've done our mindfulness, we've talked about my amazing mods that are going on, and we've talked about how we're going to start doing live coaching. Yeah, that's my car accident of joy. I don't know what that was. Yeah, forget what I said. But yeah, we're going to do that. We're doing that. Starting this Friday, so woohoo! And we looked at the photos that are pictures of isolation that were really interesting. So what I want to do now, you guys, is dive back into the Yale University free online Coursera course on the science of well-being. We've been looking at like all of these ways that our brains just don't work in our favor, right? So we have all of these, I don't know if they're like biases, but she calls them annoying features of the mind. So we often miswant things. For example, we think that making a lot of money, having a high-powered job is going to make us happy, and it just really doesn't. Same like with wanting like really good grades or wanting to look a certain way. All of that we think will bring us a lot of happiness, a big boost in our well-being, and it just doesn't. And so she's been offering us, like, since that's what the research says, she's been offering us these alternative modes or ideas of wanting that aren't intuitive to us because our brains are like they have these errors in them. So we've been looking at that the solution or the counter wanting to money and to buying things and having material goods is spending it on experiences. And she went into why that is so beneficial for us. Same thing, like we underestimate the value of being kind to others. Like we all know it's a social good and that we should do it, but we just don't fully appreciate, like our brains have this error. We don't fully understand or appreciate how much being kind to other people boosts our well-being in a very substantial way. Same thing with connection. So feeling connected to other people is often undervalued, and yet when we do it or when we experience it, our well-being goes way up. So now we're going to look at another better wanting set of things, and I'm not quite sure how many of these we'll do today. It just depends on what we feel like. But I wanted to start with this short video on time affluence. And you made a Lego house for your snacks? How did I miss this? And Yeti Dude, that is a great tip. Yes. Yes and yes. A house for snacks. Please tell me they're real snacks and not Lego snacks. You're making me hungry, though. I'm not sure how I feel about that. All right. So yeah, without further ado, of course they're real snacks. Good. Ooh, are they wet? Like watermelon? Because that'd be gross. Yes, you should. She does such fun things, Scarlet Derby. Such fun things. I am endlessly entertained by what Charlie produces. It's always like surprising and delightful. Yeah. You guys got gifts I wish I had, for sure. Ways of expressing yourselves that I just don't have. All right, here we go. We've got sound coming. And in 3, 2, 1, woo!
So when we think of affluence, we often think, as we're wont to because of our obsession with salaries and good jobs and this stuff, of monetary affluence. So if you Google affluence, just the word affluence, this is what you get in Google image search. It's all images of people who are rich, like the one in the middle, all the way on the left. I think that's a golden hamburger. I don't know why that's what people associate with affluence, but that's what you get. But you get this idea that being rich, in some sense, is being rich with money. But psychologists talk about a second kind of affluence, one that's often at odds with this sort of wealth affluence, and that's the idea of time affluence. The idea that you just have time to do the stuff that you want. You don't ever feel like you're strapped for time. Sometimes you have time to just do nothing and just enjoy, for example, a beautiful day in New Haven. And so there's this question about whether or not we should be investing in time affluence. We don't have the sense that we should. In fact, this is why you guys are always scheduled way, way, way more than you'd like to be. But is it the case that investing in time affluence could actually make us happier than we think?
Uh-oh. What is time affluence? Being skilled at budgeting your time? No. Having good enough money that you can enough money that you can afford to take time off of work, feeling like you have enough time to do the things you actually want to do, feeling strapped for times. This one. Let's submit it. Oh, we could just skip this stuff. Why are we not skipping the quizzes?
And so researchers have looked at this. Are we kind of chasing money or chasing time? And Willens et al. Did a kind of cool study of this. They just presented people with two example people. So Tina at the top, she values her time more than money. She's willing to sacrifice money to have more free time. She'd rather work fewer hours, make less money, so that she could have some time off. And then we have the opposite, Maggie. She values her money more than her time. She's willing to sacrifice lots of time to get more money. She would totally work more hours to make more money rather than have time off. And the subjects were just asked, who are you more like, in a whole series of questions, and then later, kind of how happy are you? And what you find, as you might expect, since I'm telling you guys this, is that people that prioritize time over money, people that say they're more like Tina, are happier on average than the folks who end up prioritizing money over time. You can see this in another context, and Hirschfeld et al. Did a similar study on this. They actually were really interested in the reasons that people value time over money. Like maybe the actual reasons might give a hint as to why folks who value time are better off. And so they had people first say whether they valued time over money, and then to kind of go through and sort of look at why that was. And so you can see that both folks who value time and money kind of have often similar reasons. So you either don't have enough time or money, or you're sort of focused on your needs or what you'd like, you're focused on yourself or focused on others, and for each thing, kind of valuing time or valuing money, you could focus on different things. So they kind of collapsed across all those and said, okay, if you kind of look at ignoring the reasons or kind of controlling for the reasons that people think that, what happens in terms of people's happiness when they value time over money? And so they looked at people's happiness levels after people did the survey, and what you find is, first, as you might expect, more people in their survey actually value time over money. In fact, it's about 70%, 30%.
No, other way around.
Over 2/3 of people value money over time. But if you look at who's happier, what you find is that, in general, those who are valuing time are overall happier than those who value money. And this is on, I think, a 5-point scale, so that's actually a pretty big difference. So again, what we're finding is prioritizing getting extra time and doing less stuff but having more time is better than the happiness associated with money. But then that raises a question of why. You know, why are we thinking, why do we feel like having extra time is the kind of thing that can make us happy? And that's what Mulginer and colleagues looked at. They tried to see, what do you do when you have extra time? Or what do you do when you're focused on having extra time versus having extra money? And they did this little cute study where they found people entering a cafe, and they said, do you want to be part of a study? And folks said yes. And then they primed them to either think about valuing time or valuing money using one of these cute techniques that psychologists use, which is that they had people do this little puzzle where they had to unscramble a bunch of words, and those words were either about making lots of money or those words were about like having lots of time. And so it's just a cute way to kind of prime people to be thinking about having more time or having more money. Then they had folks go in the coffee shop and they measured, kind of secretly watched how they spent their time, what were they doing while they were in the coffee shop, and then as folks left, they asked their happiness levels. And so here's what they find when they looked at two categories that people could spend their time in the cafe, whether they were socializing or whether they were working. And what you find is kind of the effect of maybe why time affluence is making us so much happier, which is that when people kind of unscrambled the words about time, they spent almost twice as much time at the cafe socializing as when they spent their time unscrambling words about money. And you see just the opposite pattern when you look at who's working. If I get you to think about making lots of money, you end up spending all your time at the cafe working. Whereas if I get you to think about time, you don't bother to work at all. You kind of use your time affluence to talk to people and socialize. You're basically making these social connections, maybe even having some kindness in there.
I relate
like
to
all
that,
this other stuff that we think promotes happiness. They then, of course, ask people as folks left whether or not you're happier. As you're guessing that these folks who are thinking about time or having more social connections, probably it might make them happier. And that's actually just what they found. If you look at people's happiness ratings on 1 to 5, in some control condition where you just unscrambled random words, you're at a happiness level of about 3.5. In the money condition where you're thinking about making money, you don't get any happier than if you just unscrambled random words. But in the time condition, you're almost a 0.5 point happier on this 5-point scale, just by kind of thinking about your time as being rich and open, or just sort of focusing on it, it makes you a little bit happier. And so the upshot is that thinking about time and sort of investing in time affluence is going to make you happier, at least in part, because it's going to make you more social. It's going to make you realize that what you want to be doing with your time isn't doing all stuff you need to do to earn money. It's just like doing fun things and interacting with others. And so that is time affluence. And you might think it's like, well, it's a thing I can want, but I'll, stick it in after all this other stuff that I do. But this is the sad thing about time affluence, is that you can only have a lot of it if you sort of are worried about the opportunity cost of it. By focusing on things like grades and all the accolades you have to get a good job and finding the perfect partner and all those things, you're taking away from the free time that you have, that if you just have it, you can kind of feel open to do lots of things, and you'll naturally sort of fill it with social connections. So think about all the times that you could have more time that you choose not to. Not this lecture, of course. This is a good thing to be at. But other than that, what are the things?
What? All right. So the gist of that, I guess, is when we shift our thinking or our priorities to going if you're gonna pursue money, right, as a goal, maybe also pursuing and or just pursuing a new definition of affluence, which would be time over money, would boost your well-being. That's what I got. Oh, Charlie, that right there, so weird that people struggle so much with the things they made up, is one of the core thoughts that coaches have. Because so much of what holds us back in life are constructs, right? Socially constructed, either outside of ourselves or inside of ourselves, right? We have all of these limiting beliefs on ourselves. It blows my mind, but it's very, 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 very human, and all of us do it. Yeah. So, wow. You know what, you guys? You know what? I'm going to do the healthy practices because a couple of you, Scarlet Derby and SS, have just started exercising again or are intending to exercise soon. So Charlie, I read that as I'm a couch now, not coach. A couch coach. I coach from a couch. So yeah, this one could maybe hopefully fuel that for you guys or whatever. I've not watched it. But that way we're not watching an 18-minute video, which is the mind control, which I do want to watch, not today. So yeah, let's just dive in if that's okay with you guys. And if it's not, let me know. Let's me know, Ziz. I'll stop
the
it.
final one is 2 sets of things I think you should be doing. They both fall under the guideline of we should be seeking out not good grades and not a big salary, but we should be seeking out healthier practices. And this is the point where I get to be a terrible salesman in the course, where I could pretend I have a happy pill, the panacea pill to just make you happier over time. And it has all these cheesy things that you'd see on infomercials. It will make you happier. It'll give you better grades, even though you're not supposed to care about that, but it will. It will make you look better, even though you're not supposed to care about your looks, but it will do that for you too. It will also have no side effects, and it's legal. It's not some sketchy drug, and it's even free. What could this horrible, wonderful thing be? Well, it turns out that it is 2 things that are completely available to you all the time, but we forget the importance of. And the first one of these is just simply exercise. It sounds really cheesy. You think you want a huge salary, but really simple increases in your physical activity all the time can have huge, huge psychological benefits. Even huger benefits than the other mechanisms we have for boosting happiness chemically.
So crazy. I wish it wasn't true.
Babiak and colleagues looked at. They tried to see whether or not they could use an exercise intervention to really increase happiness in a population that was really suffering from happiness deficits, namely people with major depression. And so they assigned people to one of 3 conditions for 6 weeks. Either exercise, which meant you just 3 times a week did 30 minutes of your own choice of exercise.
That sounds easy.
Or a medicine condition. They gave you the antidepressant Zoloft. Or they did both, where they kind of combined both of these together. And the question is, when you come back after 16 weeks, can I look 10 weeks after those 16 weeks at your relapse rate? And are you still suffering from depression? Have you relapsed, or are you happy? And here's what they find. It's pretty incredible data. So if you look at the percentage of people who are fully recovered, you get a certain number in the medicine condition, maybe just over half are recovered. But if you look in the exercise condition, about 90% of the people 10 weeks on are actually recovered from this. Oddly enough, it's actually even better than the condition where I'm giving you Zoloft and exercise.
That blows my mind. I mean, I knew this would be in favor of exercise study, but the fact that combining the antidepressant with the exercise was less effective than just the exercise blows my mind. I want to know why. I hope she tells us.
But the point is that just exercising 3 times a week for 30 minutes a day can give you as much happiness bang for your buck as taking an SSRI or taking something like Zoloft. Pretty cool. In addition, we know that exercise can boost not just our mental health well-being, but also our brain function and our cognitive function with it. And Hillman and colleagues have this wonderful review where they go through all this different evidence that exercise actually helps cognitive function. Again, you guys shouldn't worry about grades, but if you're worried about learning outcomes, which is what you should be worried about, then adding in exercise can help you with that too. And they show this in a couple domains. One is a domain of looking at physical performance measured in physical fitness scores and cognitive achievements among kids. So this is like elementary school kids. And if you look at correlations between these, what you find is that both in terms of reading achievement and mathematic achievement, there's a correlation with physical fitness scores. So a higher your aerobic activity, the more likely you're going to be cognitively achieving in these.
So SS, I would just say, like, this is one study, right? Like, we don't know the breadth of the research. We don't know why in this study that was the case. It really could be anything, like a correlation instead of causation, right? So please don't, that's just my words of caution around that. And medication exercise is very effective. And then you can always at some point reevaluate, right? So we're definitely not giving out medical advice here.
Domains. Again, it's a correlation, but it suggests this connection between physical health and physical fitness and cognitive.
Yay.
And we see this at the other end of the developmental spectrum too.
I want an
update. The connection
SS.
between fitness and cognitive performance in older adults across a bunch of tasks, what you find is generally the same pattern. So if you look at the size of the effect in cognitive performance across older adults who are kind of deemed exercise worthy, who are kind of exercising more than controls, what you find is that across a bunch of different cognitive tasks, from executive function to spatial reasoning to even response speed, those who are exercising more are actually doing better. So if you want to stay cognitively with it into old age, you should start not doing more cognitive kind of exercises, but just get to the gym and do some physical exercises. And so all of this is the kind of happy pill panacea. Like, it's going to make you look better and be happier. It's going to increase your grades, and it's totally free, and you can just do it. And so adding these healthy practices of exercise in can actually help you a lot. The final one is an especially...
How nice would it be when exercise becomes like a true habit, where it doesn't take any self-determination, it doesn't take any willpower, because you just do it, right? Like, that seems to me like the golden city upon the hill that I would love, 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 love. Yeah, I think I'm hearing you, Charlie. Like, so I think part of this is it's like the internet, the way it runs is like the things that people click on to read or to watch have these clickbait titles, right? That are all based around redactive, oversimplified solutions to problems, right? So like the happy pill, or the 3 things you need to know about blah blah blah, right? Like that's just the thing. And don't tell me it doesn't happen, Scott. Stop it, because it does. That golden city is real. So like from the get-go, people who are getting this information are oversimplifying it, right? And there's a loss to that, because the richness of actual lived experience of people who have depression is maybe not heard, and certainly not appreciated enough as part of the whole story. And it can absolutely, it would make sense that when you're hearing those kind of messages, that it does feel dismissive, and not accurate to your own lived experience.
Especially important one around this time of year of midterms. Same happy pill panacea. It will make you look better. It will improve your grades. It will improve all this stuff. And it's totally free. What is it?
Sleep?
It is sleep.
Oh,
Yes,
yes.
this thing. You might have forgotten what sleep looks like, undergraduate students, but this is what it is. It is not this of you at Bass Library looking sad, right? It's this. But again, we all kind of like know sort of the benefits of sleep, but so many of you, I bet I won't survey to ask how many hours of sleep that you're getting in this midterm season, but in an effort to kind of study for things or get good grades, all this stuff, you end up not prioritizing in your sleep, but you do it to your own deficit. Because it turns out that actually making sure you get sleep can help you both in terms of being happy, which is what you want all
That's
good
what
grades
I'm talking about,
to do,
Charlie.
but also it can help you in terms of actually getting good grades and actually having those learning outcomes that you should be prioritizing. And so how do we know this? Well, from lots of studies, but I'll just tell you about one of them. So Dinges and colleagues actually looked at this. They tested subjects' mood during normal sleep, which they defined as having about 7 hours of sleep per night. And then they did an intervention where they deprived people of sleep. So now they're in deprived sleep, 4 point. You guys are laughing because some of you don't think of deprived sleep at 5 hours a night, but it is very deprived. Watch these effects. This is terrible. But they deprived people of sleep and then gave them sleep again at the end. And they tested if subjects reported different mood effects. They also looked at whether or not they experienced physical or emotional complaints over time. So they gave people a complaint book. You could just tick off when you had emotional or physical complaints, like you didn't feel good and so on. And so here's what they find. This is a measure of positive mood over time. And so higher scores are more positive mood. This is when folks were getting the normal amount of sleep, 7 hours a night. Here's what happened during that time period where their sleep was restricted. Again, just 5 hours a night. Here's the decrease for 5 hours a night of positive mood. And then just so you think it's not something weird about this time of year, these subjects, when they go back to sleeping 7.5 hours a night, their mood kind of pops back up pretty. Although it has a deficit, it takes a while to kind of pop back up. It eventually does. What about physical and emotional complaints in your little emotional complaint log?
That's like Yeti Do Charlie.
You have 1 night of normal sleep in the white, and then the rest of those are the nights of restricted sleep. And you can basically see what happens, which is that your number of physical and emotional complaints like skyrocket. You think there's just bad things going on in your life, but really it's just that you're not sleeping enough. And so that's the kind of happiness side. Sleeping more and sleeping about 7 or 8 hours a night can make you happier. But I can't help but remind you that sleeping has all kinds of other benefits too. Maybe even the benefits of the things that you're not sleeping because of, like you're worried about learning the material in some class and so on. Turns out that sleep can actually help your academic performance and your cognitive performance. How do we know that? Well, lovely study by Walker and colleagues was actually testing what happens to cognitive performance after sleep. And so they did that in a cute way. They taught people a kind of cognitive task and motor task, and they did people's training and testing either after a long period of being awake, so they trained at 10 a.m. and they tested them at 10 p.m., or they trained them at 10 p.m. and then tested them at 10 a.m. right after people had a certain amount of sleep, and they made sure everybody slept for the required number of hours. And the question is, how much of a boost do you get from training to test? And what you find, if you look at their performance over time, is that, yeah, you get a boost from training to test during your waking hours, but you get way more of a boost from training to test after you've slept. Just the act of sleeping allows you to consolidate things and to actually do better, which is why some sleep researchers actually advocate taking naps in the middle of the day to get a little bit of a cognitive boost there too. But this comes not just in the context of kind of learning in particular, it comes in the context of a certain form of learning that we think is so important at places like Yale, where you're kind of having this insight learning, where you're kind of thinking outside the box and doing something new. Do you need sleep for that? Well, in fact, Wagner and colleagues found that it seemed like you do. They actually gave subjects a test that involved learning a bunch of stimulus response sequences, like just memorizing a bunch of these things. But they set up the pattern in kind of a cool way where there was this secret rule that could improve performance if you figured it out. But they didn't tell subjects what the rule was. The question was, did subjects have the insight to figure out that rule on their own? And did sleep affect that? Did they do that more or less with sleep or without? And so they tested it in a similar way to that last study, except they tested during the day and at night, one night where you got to sleep and one night where you were woken up. So it was tested at night, but you didn't sleep during the night. So we could see if it's an effect of night or an effect of sleep. And here is what they find, hopefully soon. We'll see if this decides to come back on. basically what they find is that not only does sleep increase the number of insights that you can have in this task, but it increases it over threefold. So the kind of secret that you're trying to figure out when you're trying to learn Orgo and you don't get it, or like these neat insights that you want to have that are really relevant for that cool paper, like all of those things will not come unless you get the required amount of sleep. And so since the sleep is the one of these many things that I've told you about that you guys are making furrowed faces like, this is never going to happen for me, I just want to do more scare quotes about the importance of this. This is from HuffPo about what you're losing. In addition to happiness, after one night of bad sleep, here is what we know happens. You're hungrier and likely to eat more later. You're more likely to have an accident on the job. You're probably not looking your best or looking very approachable because you look like that horrible picture. Your immune system is going down. You're likely to have a cold. You're actually losing brain tissue, there's research saying.
What?
After one
Stop
night of
it.
Sleep. You're more likely to get emotional and less focused and having memory problems, all those complaints we talked about before. And after chronic sleep deprivation, which again is defined as 5 hours a night, is it sleep deprivation? So chronic times having 5 hours or less of sleep, you are increasing your risk of death, decreasing your sperm count, gentlemen, increasing your risk of heart disease, increasing your risk for diabetes, increasing your risk for cancers, increasing your risk of obesity, and quadrupling your stroke risk. And so all this goes to say, go get some sleep. It's a panacea of all the happiness stuff, all the reasons you guys took this course.
No, you won't,
you can
Charlie.
achieve just by sleeping a couple extra hours a night. So let's try to see if we can make that good practice. Anyway.
Again, like this is all, like Yeti is so good at like putting these things in perspective for me, because this is all, like those were all statistical analyses, and I can't do it because math and numbers is not part of my gift of language. But essentially, like, just because it may raise your risk of dying from heart disease by 5%, that doesn't equate to, like, they don't, like, all necessarily, like, add up to 100%, right? So, no, that is not true, Charlie. It's scientifically not true. And so here's, like, the thing I never... Thank you, Brianne. You told me I could use your name, but Mrs. Scott, sorry. That just terrified me that I did that. Thank you, Mrs. Scott. Yeah, so here's the thing, like, I always want these sleep summaries to tell me that I've never found yet, which is, does it matter? Like, so say 7 hours is the golden spot, right? No, don't say it, Brie, no. 8 hours is the golden spot, or 7 hours. Does it matter that they happen all at once, right? Or can it be that, okay, you sleep 3 hours, and then later in the day you take a nap and you sleep 4, right? Like, can you add them together and get the same benefits or more of the same benefits? Like, does it matter? And how much sleep is too much sleep, right? Like, there's just not enough for me yet, and I want to know more. But it is interesting, right? It is interesting. What? No, what, Charlie? Sleep later, so if you just sleep short, but many times you don't sleep at all. Well, and that's the other, like, so that's the other question I have. Like, I pretty regularly sleep this amount of time. Like, I'm in bed for at least 7 to 8 hours, but I don't know, like, what does sleep mean, right? There's different stages of sleep, and it takes X amount of time to actually fall asleep, and I don't know how to measure that. It's different every night. I'm not aware of it when it happens, right? Because I lose consciousness. So it's very complicated. And I've been very unsatisfied with these answers that I've heard so far. But I do get the point that to the extent that we can sleep more frequently, like, or longer, up to the 7 hours, we will experience increases in our cognition and we'll complain less and experience less things as hardships. Like, I get all that. But as far as it being, like, practical advice that I know how to implement or understand, I'm not there yet with it. Which of the following results from chronic... No, we're just going to skip this one.
Okay,
Skipping.
so
bye-bye.
That's the kind of end of some of these really happy pill-like happy practices that help us more than we think.
Happy practices. All right. I can remod Scott now. I tried earlier and it was like, you do not have those privileges. And I was like, if I don't have them, who does? Boom! Welcome back to the mod fold, Scott. You have power again. Oh, Charlie, I want it. Oh. Can you send me the link anyways? Just so that I can have it in my awareness and maybe figure out a way to translate it. Because I am really curious about this sleep bit to this story here of our well-being. And I want it. I want to understand it. You know? Oh, man. I mean, only if you want to. And you could even just do, like, the, you know, the high points. Or the, like, you know, like the PowerPoint version, I guess. But there may be, like, I was thinking of using Google Translate, you know, to do it, too. So, or figuring something out like that. So, I am really curious. You guys, how's everyone doing? How did the mod training go? Yeah, I'm a totally different person when I am really tired. My anger beast comes out. I have no patience. I throw punches in my sleep. I don't know if I ever told this story. In high school, we went on a trip at our school went on a trip to New York City, and I was sharing. No, sorry, it was not New York. It was Denver, and I was sharing a hotel bed with my friend, and I went to bed early because I'm that kind of person. Like, I have to have my sleep or else I just and she came into bed late, and I sat up, I slapped her in the face, and then I lied back down and kept sleeping. It was terrible. I was mortified. Like, conscious Catherine, would never do that. Sleep deprived? I'm a monster. I experience, like, raw anger that I do not experience much in my waking life when I'm sleeping. It's crazy. Oh, I bet, Charlie. No, not the true. Not the true, just part of the true Catherine. It is a total Jekyll and Hyde moment. I really get nervous when people want to share a room with me. Really do, because I have no control over this monster. Oh yeah. Yeah, Mrs. Scott, just the little peeky window, like, moments I've seen of, like, new parenting. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I'm not a mom. Because I know, like, I can't trust that Jekyll and Hyde version of myself with the baby. Right? Not long term. So poor Yeti dude would have to do all that. That's not fair. Yeah, man. Parenting. All the sacrifices that are made. Whew. Well, no, you guys are strong to do it. For sure. So yeah, how was the mod training? Did the system work with Discord and everything? I'm dancing. Did you guys notice? Anyways, fascinating conversation. Oh, awesome! I've never been to a rave. Well, kind of. At my college, where there was, like, no city life, my college put on a rave, but really how much of a rave is that? No. Yeah, me too, Grip. Do you think those are ever going to come back? Like, are we ever going to be able to go to a rave? Or is that, like, time in our world just gone? And if it is, how can we create a virtual rave? right? Like with the lights going out and the lights and then zoom, zoom, and the people doing cool things with their bodies that I can't do. All right, I hope so. Small town raves. I love it, rave. That was like my school rave. Yeah, that all feels like our parents put on a rave. Like, it's not the same thing. The other thing my college did was we had a bar on campus, which understandably pretty cool. And it was like in the basement of the community center. And it was like a dive bar too, which is hilarious. But I get it. Like, they wanted us to stay on campus, you know, and not like go get hurt or crazy elsewhere so they could protect us. But yeah, is it really a bar? Is it really a bar? No. Glow-in-the-dark body paint and a stupid amount of glitter. Yay! Oh, we should just do that. We should just do that. I had glow stick earrings once. Those were amazing. Yeah, I'm thinking these things need to come back in my world. Yes, 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 yes. Well, you guys, who would we like to raidsies? Raidsy poops. We are small, but we are mighty, and we can spread the loves to somebody. Yes! Raid themed vow renewal! Yes! And if he won't do it with you, we'll do it as some sort of friendship ceremony. Yes, 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 it's happening now. It's happening. Ooh. Oh, is she on right now? Okay. Let's do that. I'm trying to raid her. Aha, it worked. All right, so feel free to copy and paste this loveliness. Woo, woo, woo. Thank you guys so much for today. I had a wonderful time with you all. I am super excited about Friday. And terrified, so, you know, I know you're going to be there, like, whether you're here or not in person. I know you'll send me some courage vibes so that we just do this thing called live coaching and make the world a better place. So, thank you so much, everybody. Until next time, stay true and never settle, and mwah! All right, here we go. Yay! Oh. Whoops.